All right, folks, I'm going to call this meeting of the Champaign County Board to order at, I've got 6:32. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vantage Theronot.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Cowart. Esri.
Here.
Farney.
Here.
Furtado. Hanauer Friedman. Ingram. Never mind. Locke.
Here.
Lukshin.
Here.
Michaels. Present. Pugh.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Rogers. Sexton.
Here.
Smith.
Present.
Storr. Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
I did touch it. It just isn't working. Sorry about that. Not a good omen. All right. For tonight's prayer, let us pray for blessings on all people. May there be bread for the hungry, love for the unlovable, healing for the sick, protections for children, and wisdom for the youth. Please bless this holiday season. Let's rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Will the clerk please read the notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on December 21st, 2023, 6:30 p.m. in the Shields Carter Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Okay, your motion. Second. Okay, motion by Farney, second by Diane. Eric?
Yeah, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to that motion to split the two questions about putting things on the ballot. We have a memo, yellow memo tonight. Someone's already taken the time to do that, but on the agenda, it does not reflect that we are voting on two separate things. It reflects that we're voting on them together. So I would like to replace the adoption of Resolution 2023-354, placing the question of elimination of elected office of county coroner and auditor, separate that into B2 and 3. So one is for Resolution 2023-354, which is the coroner, and 2023-355, which is for the auditor.
Is there a second? Aaron? Aaron has a second. We have a motion and a second for the friendly amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The agenda is modified. Oh, now we need to approve the full agenda. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Next regularly scheduled meetings are listed on the agenda. We are at public participation. Are there members of the public that wish to address? Please fill out forms. We may be out of them. If not, if that is the case, then just come forward. I'll go ahead and take your name. Okay, my first request is from John Bambanek.
Red's on. All right. I'm here to talk about welfare queens. That seem a little harsh? We'll get back to that in a second. So I read in the paper you're looking to increase sales taxes as a scheme for social programs. Some stuff you want to do, it's unclear what. I don't know that I much care one way or the other. What if I told you there was a pot of a couple $1 million, give or take, of money already collected and sent by property taxpayers in this county designated for social services that's currently being unused and not used for that purpose? That could, for instance, alleviate the need for levying a sales tax, which of all the forms of taxation is the most regressive, because you really can't help the poor by taxing the poor. I don't think that mathematically makes sense. As many of you county board members know, there are 30 townships here in this county. City of Champaign Township and Cunningham Township are the two big ones. They have social service programs. They do a variety of other things in the county. Some of you are familiar with because you are or have been employed by Cunningham Township. There are 28 rural townships that represent somewhere around the neighborhood of 75,000 voters. Some of those townships are as small as a few hundred. Most are a couple of thousand. I was kind of interested because I don't really hear much about what these 28 rural townships do. So I sent out a FOIA request. I want to see your budget, your levy, your checking account statements. 21 responded, 6 ignored it. 1 simply told me no in Ayers Township. Coincidentally, that township supervisor shares an address and the same last name as the road district commissioner, which I think is, of course, purely a coincidence and not really a question of nepotism. In fact, the only way I can get financial information for these rural townships was getting them from the clerk's office, which begs the question, if these units of government can't respond to FOIA requests, why don't we simply have the clerk do it, because he's able to respond to what should be these units of government's responses. To these 28 groups, right? You notice I said about 2 million. I don't know exactly how much because they're very opaque about their money, but they don't really do any public assistance. In fact, what I found, for every dollar of payroll they have, and by payroll I mean their salaries, in some cases about 10 of them get pensions, not because they're working, simply because they elected to get pensions, and health insurance, again, not for doing much. For every dollar of payroll they spend, 1 to 3 cents gets spent on social services. I don't know of any organization, including drug cartels, that operate with that kind of overhead. This money is being taxed for social service, and it's going into the pockets of these white, upper middle class elected officials, who are the real welfare queens here. So what should we do about it? Why am I here? Because obviously this is not township government, this is the county board. I am familiar with the distinction. This board has the authority to put on the ballot questions to adjust township boundaries. I suggest that there should be 4 that basically follow the county borders. Namely, there should be 1 township. And as far as I'm concerned, Danielle Chenoweth can run the whole damn thing. Take the money, do what it's being taxed to do, right? If we're talking about eliminating offices, how about we eliminate offices with elected officials getting salaries, pensions, and health insurance to do not a damn thing, including responding to FOIA requests? This board has the authority to do this and put it on the November ballot. It's too late for the March ballot. I might suggest that's a way to solve the problem. If we're going to get rid of offices, I think we should get rid of the grift of these upper middle class whites who are taking for the poor and keeping from themselves.
Thank you. Next up, George Danos.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm your elected auditor, George Danos. I dispute the need for the tax increase some of you seek. We already have a quarter-cent sales tax for full debt service on the previous jail bond, for interest on the new jail consolidation debt, for courthouse utilities, for the youth assessment center, and it still manages to save $1.8 million a year into its reserves. It already has about $4 million in its unreserved fund balance. So when the old bond is retired in 2030, available reserves in the currently existing public safety sales tax fund will have accumulated to more than the $15.4 million we need to then immediately retire the principal on the second bond. Moreover, we have set aside $5 million of ARPA funds for the sheriff's jail project. Isn't that ample cushion in case the existing quarter-cent sales tax raises less money than anticipated? Between the two funds, ARPA and the existing public sales tax, there would still be money left over. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, far from being in dire need of a second quarter-cent sales tax, we have the option of retiring the first one. Instead, you seek to hurriedly sideline the independent auditor and give your wish list the misnomer public safety sales tax when you failed to itemize anything you could possibly spend it on. No one in the county administration or the county board finance committee will tell you that. I just did. It takes an independent elected auditor to do so. In her recent memo, the Director of Administration asserts that without the elected auditor, the county would gain savings. This is a stupendous falsehood. She and her boss cannot just decapitate my office. Her alternative organization chart has my staff reporting to the finance director, who does not hold a CPA. The county executive would have to hire one. There is no CPA among my staff. I am the sole CPA in my office. My annual salary is about $94,000. How much more would you need to replace me on the open market? A Franklin University study says that 10-year accountants with both a CPA and a master's degree, my own credentials, in 2020 would require $129,000. Scaled for inflation, that's the equivalent today of $156,000. The only way you could save money would be to dismiss either my chief deputy or two of my staff. That is simply too absurd to consider. My deputies have gone beyond the call of duty. They have already performed the county's bank reconciliations that had been the treasurer's job. I spoke earlier today on the radio with Al Nudo and Brian Barnhart on Penny for Your Thoughts. Al Nudo recalled how eliminating the auditor came up in 2010. And then Auditor Tony Fabry was inattentive and unqualified. And yet, despite his irresponsibility, this county, Champaign County, defeated that eliminationist referendum because of principle. And what is that principle? Independence. Independent election is granted to all other countywide officers. That is how we respect the need for democratic virtue in our society. Rather than have all decisions come down from the center, we Americans understand that good governance comes about when we access the free and independent consciences of individuals contributing to the collective decision. An elected tyrant who simply appoints everyone will not do, nor will legislative leaders who steamroll their colleagues. How much more important is the principle of independence than in the office of the county auditor? Independence is the sine qua non, the without which nothing of being an auditor. It is the primary ethical criterion of my profession. I will close by reading to you from the Statement on Auditing Standards, Chapter 1, Section 220. It is of utmost importance to the profession that the public maintain confidence in the independence of independent auditors. Public confidence would be impaired by evidence that independence was lacking. To be independent, the auditor must be intellectually honest. To be recognized as independent, he must be free from any obligation or or interest in the client, its management, or its owners. Do not give this administration an auditor they own. It's a contradiction in terms. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jim Maguire.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. Hope you're having a great holiday. This evening, I think George made the comments that kind of explain why I have a problem with putting the auditor issue on the ballot. Coroner, I think, will find the same thing, that there will be no savings. The auditor issue will not allow for proper oversight of the county board and its spending. But I wanted to talk more about the process and timing of how this came to the board, because I think it interferes with the voters' opportunity for public comment, their opportunity to speak to whether they want these issues on the ballot, and their interference in their ability to vote for the candidates they want. Secondly, the timing interferes with right in the middle of the process of the election, including for the Republican Party, the ability to recruit a candidate that would write themselves in to run against the Democrats' auditor, or to slate the candidate eventually, because we couldn't actually recruit that candidate while the consideration to eliminate the office would be under consideration by the voters. Therefore, we wouldn't have a candidate if the voters did not pass the resolutions to eliminate the offices. This is unfair to the voters and the candidates. But I did want to talk about the process that you followed and ask some questions about how this question came up, who asked to have this on the ballot. Was it the League of Women Voters? Was it other voters? How did this information get presented and brought to the county board? When was it noticed for any organizational meetings to be discussed and a resolution and minutes for the public or the public meetings? At what public meeting was a cost savings study or information to appoint these offices presented and discussed, and where are the minutes to those meetings? And how was it determined which appointed office or offices of coroner and auditor would be appointed to, or who would take over those responsibilities to lead the office? Obviously, we can't replace the coroner. We'd have to continue to have a coroner's office. So where did these meetings happen? Were they part of the internal county board meetings, and did the public have access to be able to comment? The last elected office to be placed on the ballot to be considered for appointment by the voters was the recorder's office, which had been commented on in the paper, which is that candidate ran for office for 5 months and discussed the issue of consolidating the recorder's office with the clerk's office. So the voters had an opportunity to discuss this issue for 4 or 5 months as he ran, and unfortunately he won because he was a Democrat. On January 4th, the county clerk and the recorder sent this memo to the county board for consideration on a CAL agenda to consider consolidating the recorder's office and the clerk's office. Then at a CAL meeting on the 12th of January, there was consideration and opportunity for the public to comment, the county board to comment, to properly discuss the issue and how it would be put on the ballot. Then at a special meeting on the 12th, they brought the questions for the ballot to the special meeting, more opportunity for the public to comment and consider this issue. How is that different than now? This is the first time anybody's had an opportunity to discuss this issue outside the public. It had to be amended tonight, by Mr. Thorsland, because it was unclear We still don't know who these offices will work for, but yet we're going to truncate the election by putting them on the ballot by action vote tonight. And I wish you would allow the voters to truly understand what they would be voting for and not take their right away to determine who the candidates are and which candidate they would select for both offices. Thank you for your consideration, and have a great holiday.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, Aaron Ammons.
Good evening, everyone. Grand evening, as I typically say. My name is Aaron Ammons, and I am your Champaign County Clerk and Recorder and a resident of the city of Urbana. So first, I have heard the rumors that I am behind these proposals, so let me state unequivocally I have absolutely nothing to do with the proposal to raise our taxes or the one to eliminate the elected auditor or coroner. I rise in strong opposition to the rushed proposal to add 2 ballot referenda questions to the March 19, 2024 primary ballot, aiming to make the elected county auditor and county coroner into appointed positions. Earlier today, I sent a letter to the county board describing my opposition to this in more detail. My staff and I administer elections in this county, and we have been preparing for the past 7 months for the primary election. And although my office will be inundated with phone calls from confused voters about the proposal to eliminate the 2 elected offices, I was not given any prior notice that this was under consideration, let alone prepared to go to this county board for a vote. It is also not lost on me, nor the proponents of this referenda, that the due date to submit questions to my office for ballot placement is January 2nd of 2024. So this hurried attempt at getting this onto the ballot in the 11th hour is a major disservice to the voting public and the candidates. This proposal was done in such a rush that even board members were surprised when it was raised at the end of a presentation by Director Jett. If board members were surprised, then it's obvious that the public had absolutely no idea what was going to be discussed at that meeting. This proposal would force voters to simultaneously vote for their party nominee to serve the next 4 years as auditor and coroner, and on the same ballot, decide if they want to undermine the very candidate they just voted for. These are contradictory questions to place on the voters at once, especially in such a hastily and informal process with little to no opportunity for community discussion on this idea. This proposal tonight would unfairly and unnecessarily confuse thousands of voters. As the county clerk responsible for conducting fair, free, and accessible elections, I would be remiss and derelict in my duty not to speak out against this last-minute scramble to add confusing questions onto the ballot. As the election authority and as a voter, it is deeply troubling that the county board would even attempt to vote on such a huge change in this manner. The public does not know this is happening, and I am hard-pressed to believe that the county administration will be able to do any level of education on this topic before voting starts on February 8th of 2024. This was not on any previous agenda. It was merely mentioned at the end of the recent December 12th Committee of the Whole. This is being forced on people at lightning speed, again with little to no discussion or opportunity for input from the people. Lastly, most county board members, even though it did not pass, just mere weeks ago voted to affirm a policy the Zoning Board of Appeals rejected, citing the possibility for litigation against the county. If those of you on this county board who sincerely hold the belief that avoiding legal action against the county is a basis for your vote, you will surely reject this proposal for eliminating both offices. I want to take a second here to highlight what I really feel is extremely unfair to the candidates. Many of you who have run for office, some of you countywide, you know that you have to do lots of things, legal steps, and get hundreds, if not thousands of people to sign your petitions. And it's a Herculean effort to do that sometimes. You got to raise money, You got to get yard signs. You've got to do all these different things to try to convince a voter to support you. But this action will leave these candidates in limbo because they don't know if they should run a full-out race because the measure might pass. Will volunteers and donors want to participate and donate if the offices will no longer exist? And then to the timing. The last day to object to candidates' petitions was December 11th. And Director Jett, who worked in my office, helped administer the petition process for several years, knows better than most of the candidates, most of you here, that candidates were celebrating making it on the ballot on December 11th, and then she proposed the very next day to eliminate the very offices and the body of elected officials about to second, and you, as a body of elected officials, about to second her motion. I believe it is egregious and grossly unfair to these candidates to put them in this position unnecessarily when you all could have did this years ago if that's what you wanted to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Robbie Walker.
Good evening. I just wanted to come and basically update the council on the status of the Healing Invisible Wounds through the Stop the Violence program. We were able to put on our first event on December the 2nd. We think it was a success. We're starting to gather data and information on the veterans in the area. And we plan to complete a veterans assessment and distribute that in February. And we are planning our next events. We should have more information mid-January on our upcoming training and education. So I just wanted to come and update the board. I know Mr. Wilson has a more details, and we do have a kind of an itemized budget or expenditures. So if there's any questions or any feedback, I'd be willing to take that. And again, I want to thank the board for allowing us this opportunity to serve the veterans. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Next up is Cheryl Walker.
Good evening. Like my husband, I'm just here to update you guys on our homeless veteran stand down that we had the opportunity to have on September the 9th at the Urbana Armory. I think it was a success also. Our budget was based on the point of count. We had 58 participants. We spent $9,959.50. Our next event is scheduled for September the 7th, 2024 at the National Guard Armory. It was a very humbling experience. It was an awesome day to be a human. Gave us an opportunity to see community members in a different light that you normally don't get to see, and just to serve people. And it was just humbling because it could happen to anybody. And so I thank you guys for the opportunity to have to serve our veterans and the community. And would like to present you guys with a plaque thanking you for that experience. It's in Mr. Patterson's, Honorable Kyle Patterson's name, but it's for the whole county. Because without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to put on that event. So thank you guys very much. I'm going to pass it to Mr. Wilson because he's the closest, and I don't want to cross the flags. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up is Brian Brower.
Is it okay to not be hostile? I'm a fireman. I'm more like the Walkers than some of the folks. My name is Dr. Brian Brower. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Lori Brower. She decided that rather than come present to you, she had her appendix rupture, had emergency surgery, and is recovering very uncomfortably at home. So please hear this in her voice, not mine. She's worked at the coroner's office for the past 3 years. She's both a deputy coroner who investigates cause and manner of death and is also cross-trained as an autopsy technician. I didn't know the order you were going to select folks in tonight, Executive. So you're going to hear some of the same things from other folks. Being a qualitative researcher, I'm staying away from any numbers because that always trips me up. And George covered those rather well. To be transparent, Lori's also running for the position of coroner in the primary. As Mr. Ammons mentioned, there's an outlay of funds that we've committed, that Mr. Thuney's committed, that Mr. Williams is committed in anticipation of having an election. But we understand that things change. 24 months ago, Lori decided to run for the office. Since then, she's been looking at ideas and ways to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the office. Her ideas would mesh well with either an appointed or an elected coroner. The first issue that Director Jett raised last week has validity, the cost issue, but the solution she offered won't realize the savings she's suggesting. The issue is more complex than her overview suggests and warrants more exploration and research before it's put on the ballot, if it's put on the ballot. If this has to go on the ballot for the spring, she recommends a task force be created immediately to map out that change and fill in the gaps that are being raised by other people here at the meeting tonight. It's not that it can't happen necessarily, it's that there seem to be a lot of unanswered questions that should be addressed first. The second issue that Director Jett raised that Lori wanted to speak to is how long it takes to process a death certificate. Michelle's right, it can take a long time. And the delays make it difficult for families to be able to pay for final arrangements, close out the decedent's affairs, and prolongs the mourning period for the family. There are ways to improve that process, but changing from an elected to an appointed position doesn't flip a switch to make those changes happen. And the theme here is more study, answer the questions, and make sure that this is the right change at the right time. There's two other items that warrant additional discussion at her recommendation. First, there needs to be an accountability to the voters. Just like all of you sitting around this table, which looks a lot different on TV than it does here, you're elected and you have an immediate accountability back to the voters. Every 4 years, you're held accountable. Moving to an appointed position could remove some of that accountability. And Lori asks that you make sure that that accountability is maintained if it's a direction you decide to go. Again, not saying don't do this, not yelling at you for thinking about it, but there's other things below the waterline here that need to be thought out. The second other big issue of concern to her is that the elected official to whom the coroner might report must understand the nuances and statutory requirements and investigatory requirements that the coroner's office needs to bring to the table. This can't report to an office that doesn't have an understanding of how the legal system works. This isn't something that can be plugged in anywhere. It needs to get plugged in a specific place to help that change be successful. This issue is much more complex than eliminating an elected office. And you're, from the gallery, I know you're going to hear folks that are much closer to the issue than I am, more experienced on the issue than Lori is. But an important takeaway is that this warrants further study. This is an issue to her as a voter first, a deputy coroner second, and a candidate for office third. Regardless of who the voters choose in March or November, be it Steve, Sean, or Lori, and whether or not this issue is on the ballot or on a future ballot, as proposed, this would be much stronger if it were studied more thoroughly to ensure that the change has the desired and intended impact for the residents of the county. Thank you for listening. And since I have a couple seconds, to the Walkers, thank you. It was so nice to have that little palate cleansing good news. I'm now going to let you resume getting yelled at by others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Sean Williams.
Good evening. My name is Sean Williams. I'm running for Democratic candidate for Champaign County Coroner. I'm a lifelong citizen of Champaign. I'm an Army veteran, graduate of Urbana High School. Got back in this community and seen the issues that were going on in the community and got right to work. I'm a business owner. Was the first one to get a business started through a community program more than 30 years ago. I've been hitting issues. I'm a blueprint partner with the city of Champaign, working with women for gun violence, mothers that lost their kids to gun violence. I'm a blueprint partnership with the city of Champaign with financial literacy, working with youth and adults probably 4 times a week. I had this opportunity as Dwayne retired to become the first African-American coroner, probably within the state of Illinois. I did, after doing a lot of, I own a funeral home here locally, and after talking to one of the funeral home partners and going through Rena and Wyckoff's funeral home and looking at the history of the coroner's office. Rena and Wyckoff, just giving you a little background, started in 1875, and they were the coroner's office of Champaign County. And they handled the capacity or even being the ambulance back when we had stagecoaches. So that goes back to just saying, brick by brick, we have developed what we have now currently as the coroner's office. I've had the opportunity of working with Dwayne through our reality days with youth that have been dealing with certain issues throughout Champaign County. And Dwayne has always opened up the doors at the coroner's office for us to be able to see a reality of what really happens, and it's not television. And so that was always great for the coroner's office. My concern was when I started, because I always had used my hub as a funeral home or the barbershop to be able to help whoever was running for office, but to mainly help a lot of Democratic people that were running for public office. And so we started North End Breakfast Club, and we started on the ground with getting a lot of the Democrats elected. I always stayed away from politics because of the messiness of it. So when this opportunity arose, I said, hey, this is my lane. This is what I understand. I deal with families every day with gun violence and many other issues that arise throughout the county. And then I started learning the process, the politics of it, fundraising, all of those things. But when this issue popped up on top of this, and it came up the night of my dad dying that morning. And so today being the anniversary of one of my brothers committing suicide in 1975, this is a compound issue on top of dealing with that, on top of fundraising, on top of how to learn how to run a viable campaign and run against a Democratic opponent and possibly a Republican opponent in the future. So when I started doing the research and understanding the Illinois General Assembly's statute of the law, the spirit of the law, and the spirit of the law does allow you to appoint, but the spirit of the law was written by those founders to be able to assist smaller municipalities that did not have the capacity that we have in Champaign County to do appointments. It was written to be able to help those folks out to be able to appoint somebody. We've had a coroner since 1875. Why would we change now? It seems ironic that we have this happening at this point in time. So what I vow to you to do tonight is take a step back, look at what we have going on. We have a major Democratic county board, and what we see is not democratic. It's not giving us due process. It's not giving the citizens of this county the opportunity to be able to elect who they want. That's always what I've stood on, to elect who they want, not to go to, whoever we want. So I thank you for your time. Please take into considerations.
Thank you. Next is Ronald Vlock.
If I may, I'd like to go ahead and yield my time to Dwayne Northr.
Certainly.
Good evening. Thank you for having me or giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm Dwayne Northr, recently former Champaign County coroner for many years. I just wanted to come up and speak, as you've heard from some of your current candidates that are running to take over after I retired. There's a lot of issues with this as far as eliminating the coroner's office. I've been through this. I was in this county in the coroner's office for 22 and a half years. In the first or second term of my office, the county board visited this with the auditor and the recorder at that, or the auditor and the coroner at that time. I gave, I believe, at least an hour-long or more presentation at that time. As Mr. Williams had said, currently appointed coroners in this state, all of them combined, I believe, from my prior research, the population of those counties is less than Champaign County's population, to give you an idea of what happens, in counties where we have an appointed coroner. We have other counties such as Bureau County, Illinois, that switched to an appointed coroner years ago, and they actually went back to an elected coroner because it did not work out well, and there were all kinds of issues that happened with that. As Mr. Williams and some of the other candidates, Mr. Brower and some of the others have alluded to, there's a huge issue with not having independence with your coroner. It wasn't that long ago where I sat here before this board where I was being pressured to change pathologists and make changes in my office by members on this board because they didn't like my pathologist. And people are open to like and dislike who they want. But when you start trying to influence the process and the investigations, which it affects the criminal justice process as well, by influencing the individuals such as the coroner and who they select to do their autopsies or how they do their investigations, this is exactly the reason why you don't have an appointed coroner. Because the coroner does not have the independence to make those decisions. The coroner has to frequently make decisions that go against families' wishes, that go against other people's wishes, but that's what the right thing to do is because it's the right thing for the investigation and to answer questions for the public as a whole, not specific individuals. So there are times when the coroner has to go against a family when a family may not want an autopsy, but the coroner feels it's necessary. I personally have experienced in my 22 and a half years phone calls from state's attorneys, from politicians, from police departments or police officers where they have tried to influence me to use a different pathologist or to not do an autopsy or to do an autopsy. And I had the autonomy and the independence to actually do what was the right thing to do because I was an elected official and no one could hold my position over me individually by saying, well, if you don't make that decision, we understand you're going to be up for reappointment in a few months, and we hope it goes well for you. So you have to think about that when you make these decisions because you are taking the independence away, which it could be your family member. It could be somebody you know's family member. And you want a coroner who's free to make those decisions that are the right decisions to make and not because somebody's pressuring them to make those decisions. Financially speaking, I don't know what the concerns are or what status the county is in currently with finances, but if you go back to 2011 when we opened the morgue facility here in Champaign County, our revenue has done nothing but increase since that time. Now our expenses increased too, but that's the nature of the business. All of the county's expenses have pretty much raised since that time. I think all of your personal expenses have probably raised during that time as well. But having a coroner who's qualified and capable of doing the position also ensures that the revenue comes in that's supposed to, that the job gets done the way it's supposed to, and so forth. So, keep that in mind, and I would support that. Like I said, you can go back and look at the revenue streams for the county as far back as you want, and you will see that they significantly increased after we opened our own facility and started doing our own autopsies. Sorry, I'm losing track here. One of the other examples that I want to say is you had, after the Safety Act, you had the salaries of most sheriffs in the state were increased by, I think, up to the same level as the state's attorney, and I think 2/3 of that salary is now reimbursed by the state. So there's a savings to the county of that salary right there, and the amount of money you're going to save from a coroner's salary by reducing the salary is not the direction to go. You are not going to see any savings. Your expenses are still going to go up. and you're not going to see any of those financial savings that you think you're going to save. You're actually most likely, by having an appointed person that may not be qualified, your expenses are going to go up as well, because that person is going to order more autopsies and things because they don't know what they're doing. Do I get to continue under my time, or would you like me to come back? I think my time's up under Mr. Vlock's time.
If you think you can finish up in a couple of minutes, then go ahead and use that additional time. But normally, we just do it by a slip, and he gave up his time to you, which was 5 minutes.
I have a
so-
slip in as well.
Well, that's true, but we usually only let one person speak at one time. One slip, 5 minutes. That's what practice has been with the board. I'm fine if the board's in deference to giving you a few more minutes. If you think you can finish it up in that amount of time, I'm happy to give that to you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So talking about that independence as well, coroners are checks and balances on the law enforcement field as well as the medical field as well, whether it's nursing home patients that die in the hospital, patients that die in police custody. Having the qualified person in there that the citizens as a whole or as a majority in the elective process have elected to serve that position and made the decision that that person's the qualified person to handle that job, rather than a select few or one or two people that make that decision, ensures that when family members call the coroner's office and have a concern about a death in a nursing home or in a hospital or at home or in the jail, county jail, they can have the confidence that that person is at least going to look at that death and determine if there's any further investigation that needs to be made. Again, without that influence, outside influence, weighing on the coroner that they've made the decision and now they're going to suffer some kind of consequences for that. So I will wrap up quickly because I know we have other coroners that have come to speak, but I do think, as somebody mentioned, the auditor's office vote was voted down handily when it was chosen years ago to eliminate the office of the auditor. Typically, there's been other counties in the state of Illinois who have looked at this as well, and it's been voted down every time. As voters, not just as board members, I think you would agree, if you really thought about it, that you would like to have the independence and the coroner be an elected position. So I thank you.
Thank you. James Quisenberry.
Good evening, all of you. I think this is only the second time I've sat on this side of the tables here. I want to thank you all, Executives Summers, Chair Patterson, Vice Chair Carter, and all of you county board members for your service, especially Lorraine Cowart, who I served with, but I came and went, and she's still here. I served 2 elected terms on this board, so I recognize the time it takes, and I chose to come back for a couple of months as an appointed person when my friend and colleague Robert King moved on. It's a tough job, but it's a rewarding job, and I appreciate your service. I'm currently sitting on the Urbana City Council, and I want to make it clear that I don't represent the city. I'm one of 7 people on council, including the mayor. There's 8 of us, so I'm not speaking for them, but I am speaking as someone who hears a lot from our public. Urbana, we have a very rich participation in our meetings. And I've also thought about some of the questions that are in front of you tonight. I'll get the hard part out of the way with regard to the seal. Don't like number 1, could live with number 3. I would choose number 2. That would be my pick. I don't know if you can have a seal that sticks outside of the circle, but it's the best looking one as far as I'm concerned. About the auditor and the coroner, putting that on the ballot. I believe I voted to put the auditor question on the ballot in 2010, and then I actually campaigned against it. Why was that? Well, I believe there are times we want to have the public have input on things, and I'm not afraid of that. I've never been afraid of asking the public's opinion on something. But I do not believe eliminating an elected auditor was a good idea, because we have seen some really strong auditors in this county that have helped keep things on the straight and narrow when it needed to. We've also had some auditors that may not have been that way. I'm not judging anyone here, I'm just saying that's possible, but we don't fix government and how it's organized based on the person who's currently sitting in the seat or the person we think might sit in the seat. With regard to the auditor, I think that independence is important. I do have a concern about appointing someone to check your books for you. It is, when you hire them, that's a relationship that's there. And so I would not, I understand why you might want to put something on the ballot, but I would be a voice that would be against that. I was a little bit more neutral on the coroner question from a standpoint of independence. I may have been persuaded tonight that I should think about that more strongly, but I've looked at this 3 times sitting in those chairs, and the coroner question never seemed to make sense to me financially. The skill set that you need to hire to fill the role that elected coroner currently fills is going to cost you more. And if it was going to cost you more in 2010 and 2012 and 2014, I'm not sure it's going to cost you less now. So again, you can ask the voters about this, but you always have to be sure to listen to them. The other thing I would say is, if you're going to ask the voters, ask them in a general election, not a primary that has very few contested races in it. You want to know what the public thinks? Put it out there when everybody's going to show up. Presidential election, if you want to know what the county thinks, more people are going to vote for that in that than anyone. I guess, this is coming from a concern of cost. I hear this is a cost savings question. And the cost, one of the things we're talking about spending money on is sheriff's patrols. I would suggest that if you want to worry about cost and you want to talk about what voters think about the county executive position. Now, I voted for Steve. I would vote for him again if he was running again. But how much time and energy have we wasted on adopting a form of government that is, we're the only other one of 2 in the county. I don't think it was a good choice. The other thing I would ask you to look at is if sheriff deputy patrols is what you need, I would look at how much you're charging for that service to an urban community such as Savoy, who is paying you roughly about $64 per capita for police service, when a village like Tolono spends $150 per capita for their police force.
Thank you, Jim.
Now, all right, thank you.
Next, Pastor Herbert Bernett.
My name is Pastor Herbert Bernett, but I'm also, first of all, we could have solved all this. I learned one thing tonight. It's Dwayne's fault, right? Shouldn't have retired. We wouldn't be here, right? And so, but, I moved back here after doing 20 years in the Army. And my pet peeve, I served in 2 wars. I moved back here in 2008. I came back from war in 2005, so it was about 3. But my pet peeve is leadership. I try to fly below the radar when it comes to politics. I'm a doer. I'm all about results. And so you can make your mouth say anything. So I try to stay away from all that. But I'm here tonight, and I've heard, I could have just said what the former coroner and Aaron said. I mean, so I'm praying that you guys listen to what they say and take it serious. If you do, then it's a no-brainer that we're not going to do away with this. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. But my personal opinion is leadership is at an all-time level low across the country. And so everything that we do here is happening on your watch as a county. This is your watch. And so just listening to these other people, I got a whole lot of stuff on here, but I'm not going to say it. But what I do want to talk about, the only thing in Mississippi, my mama come from Mississippi, and when you try to do something quick in Mississippi, they call that a dead cat on the line. And so I smell a dead cat on the line. Y'all in too big a hurry. What you in a hurry for? Why you so in a hurry? You know when you in a hurry, you don't make good decisions. Everybody here is at least 30 years old, so you've been living a while. So you know when you in a hurry and you make decisions based on emotions, they don't come out right. And so I'm going to be real quick. Ponder your path. On the way over here, the only thing that was on my mind is when Judas was betraying Jesus. Good God Almighty, I feel my help coming on. When Judas was betraying Jesus, you know what Jesus told him? Whatever you do, do it quickly.
Thank you. Next is Steve Thuney.
Good evening. Well, what can I say that wasn't said by Mr. Ammons, Mr. Northrop, the pastor, Mr. Williams, Mr. Brower? I agree with all of them. I think this is a rush. I agree that the coroner needs to be independent in his ability to do their job without any kind of pressure, be it from law enforcement, political, or from the prosecutor. The League of Women Voters actually did a study for this county and determined that the elected coroner should be retained. I won't address what they said about the auditor. In all fairness, I'm the interim coroner right now. I've worked for Dwayne for 13 and a half years and learned a lot, and I agree it is his fault that I'm here. But I'm happy to be here, and I hope to be able to run for election and hopefully be elected to the position of coroner. And with that, I'm a man of few words. So with that, I'm going to leave it to the next person to speak. Thank you for your time. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Next is Jeremy Chase.
My name's Jeremy Chase. I'm just a citizen here that's heard about this in the last couple days on Facebook. I had no idea about it. I have no ties to anybody here, so I figured I'd come and hear and check it out and see why they were trying to do that, right? So while sitting here, I just kind of took some notes on what other people were saying, brought some concerns to mind, and so I just wanted to be heard as well. The one thing is it does feel very rushed. Like I said, I just learned about it on Facebook within the last couple days. I, as a citizen, didn't know. And so to me, it would be hard to vote on something like that without the proper information. And so I hope that if people are wanting to go forward with that, we're informed more about what that cost savings would be, what that would look like, and why it would be beneficial to someone like me who doesn't have a dog in the race at all, right? On top of that, I think the accountability issue is a big one for a lot of voters, you know. We pick people that we think are gonna have our voice or our interest in hand, and we want those people to be accountable. We want those people to have checks and balances in place to make sure that we have our voice heard as well. And so I think in both of these situations, that is one thing that most citizens are going to want to have is some sort of checks and balances. And so if you were to go to the appointment system, again, what would that look like? I think that's something that we would all want to know prior to voting on it, right? But then also, as I sat here, one of the things that spoke to me the most was the current coroner saying how many times people have tried to influence him in decisions and doing things. And as a citizen of this county, that's the fear right there. And so I think if this is something that the county really wants to pursue and go towards, we kind of have to be sold on why. Why would that be a better situation than what we currently have? Why would that be something better to do? Who else is doing it that's been successful? Where's the research on this, where another county has done this and saved so much money that it made sense to somebody who just goes to work every day like me? And I understand that you guys have the burden of figuring out where all the money goes, making everything work, keeping everybody appeased, and we get that. But at the end of the day, when we're paying the taxes and we're voting on the people, we kind of want to have an idea of why this would be better, who else is doing this, and why this would look better for our particular situation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Folks, we have about 10 minutes left. We usually do an hour of public participation. The board can extend that, but if the additional people that want to come up can be brief, that would be helpful. But we will work to listen to all people. So the next up is Jim Allman.
Steve, I'd vote to extend so we could hear from everybody.
All right, thank you. I'm fine. I've heard nobody saying that they do not want to extend, so we will continue. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening. First and foremost, thank you. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak. We'll be cognizant of your time. I understand you guys have an agenda. A little bit about me. My name is Jim Allman. I'm the Vice President of the Illinois Coroners and Medical Examiners Association. I'm the Sangamon County Coroner in Springfield. On several state boards, the Child Death Review Team, the Chairman of the Adult Fatality Review Team, Illinois Terrorism Task Force. I was recognized to participate and still am on the National Advisory Council for Medical Legal Death Investigators. I've been in this job for 20 years, about 22 years, I guess, trying to show Dwayne up a little bit. Worked alongside of him for most of it. Being a neighboring county, we bounce a lot off of each other. And I know there's a huge void to fill. And I want to commend him for the job that he did, because it's a tough one. It really is. It takes a highly motivated person who wants to serve the public to do what it is that we do. Our hours, our schedule, our caseload is unpredictable. I always tell people when we're talking about a budget, I would love a crystal ball, because we have no idea from one minute to the next what's going to transpire with what it is that we do. The coroner's office is a non-biased, standalone entity. We exist merely to allow the scales of justice to equal out. We insert a non-biased investigation alongside law enforcement. I think this means a lot when we're dealing with people who pass away in police custody or in the jail setting. The families that I've had to deal with and talk to about that appreciate the fact that we're an independent, non-biased, standalone entity. That means a lot to them. Looking around the room here, I don't know anybody, Dwayne. I don't think that anybody in this room wants to take the democracy away from the people in Champaign County. I don't think that's what this is about. I'm not real sure what it's about, but I can assure you that we're having a tough time understanding. I know the guys and girls that work in that office do a great job. They got a tough job to do. And I can't say any more than Dwayne already said. I've got a lot here that I wrote down I wanted to say. I want to be respectful of your time. You know, once our office gets in a position where we have to make decisions to what's best for the community, and having an opportunity not to be in a position to be persuaded one way or another is something that I think that's been driven home here tonight. And I could speak from experience in reference to that stuff. They're difficult decisions, but sometimes they have to be made. But again, thank you for your time. I wanted to say I appreciate that, you guys listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Dr. Susan Mantell.
Hello, everyone. I believe the coroner and the auditor position should remain elected and independent. Coroners have to be able to maintain autonomy and be able to make decisions, as everyone has said here. One thing we have to think about is that coroners collect a lot of data, and they send that data to nationwide databases. All of this data is on morbidity and mortality. As a physician, I have to rely on that data to be accurate, to make decisions about what happens with patients. I particularly work in addiction medicine, and so data on opioid deaths, deaths related to medications used for opioid treatment, that data, if that gets skewed because a coroner has been appointed and is then being pressured, is going to then affect everybody in this room, because treatment of patients will be affected. So I'm wholly against not having an elected, independent coroner. Same issue on the auditor. We are relying on the auditor to be a checks and balances person. If we have an auditor that's appointed by the same party that is being potentially audited, it makes no sense, because then they can be skewed in the same way. Then we don't know what's happening with the money that the taxpayers pay to the county through taxes and real estate taxes, et cetera. So we need to rely on both of these offices to be independent and unable to be persuaded by different political persons or people in power. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, forgive me if I get this wrong, Bob Yesmer?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I know a lot of stuff was covered by Dwayne and the rest of the other gentlemen. I'm Bob Gessner. I'm from the Kankakee Coroner's Office. I am the coroner. I've been there for 22 years. I've been in the office since 1984. I read this. I got a question. Somebody called me on this question about eliminating the office of coroner. I can't believe it. One of the things that I've really noticed tonight is watching the whole room there, everybody's paying attention. Their eyes are on who the person's talking to. That's a great quality that I see, and I don't know anybody out there, but I'm really proud of you listening to what we're saying. I don't know if a lot of the people know that a coroner is on call 365 days a year. When I take a vacation out of there, I have to make sure that I have somebody that covers me, and if I don't, then I don't go on vacation. And that doesn't go well with my wife. But I chose to do this office. I love what I'm doing, and I've done a lot of work with Champaign County coroners. We're about the same as Kankakee County. You're a little bit bigger, but we have the same particular problems. I've worked with Dwayne several times and Steve, and we've done a lot of your autopsies too when you didn't have a morgue. Kankakee County has had a morgue since 2005. We got that through a state grant. And I'm proud to say that I helped write that state grant, and I know how to write a grant, and that's why Kankakee County is ahead of the ball game as far as you see in the paper, almost $18 million plus in our county right now, which is most we've ever had. I've seen it way down before. One of the big problems in here and all is the ODs, and that's an automatic autopsy on ODs, because there's a law out there that says that you can charge them with induced homicide if you can figure out who gave them the heroin or fentanyl or cocaine, and that's some of the things you have to investigate. And the new state law that was produced out there, Safety Act, gives them 120 days to be able to solve that case, where it takes us between 6 to 8 weeks, up to 10 weeks, to get our OD, our drugs back, to figure out what this person has taken, our toxicology, I should say. And that doesn't give the state's attorney very much time.
Pathologists here, I know you have a problem in Champaign right now, that you're losing one pretty quickly. It's hard. Let me give you the statistics that I just found out. Because when I found out about this, I did some going through some of my notes that I have. I'm secretary of the Illinois Coroners for 22 years. I know a lot about the coroners out there, but let me just tell you that there's only 18 graduates for the board certified forensic pathologists, not in Illinois, in the United States. 18. And you have to understand that we're blessed to have 2 in our county right now. And I know you're losing one there, and I know they've been working hard at it, trying to find one there. It's difficult, very difficult to do. And we'll open up the doors if we have to help, you know, the county at all, if we can do it. But that's a big concern to me. And that's 12 years of schooling plus another 4 years. So you go for a lot of schooling, and most people don't want to be that. But our manner of deaths are natural, suicide, homicide, accidental, and undetermined. And like both of them, all of you said there, that it's very difficult to put yourselves in some of these conditions because the family will get on you quite heavily, and you have to understand that. But I don't see where you're going to save any money. Believe me, I work a lot on my budget. We try to stay equal with it, but the cost of living goes up quite a bit. Our autopsies, because the doctors are asking for more money, and I look around at, we pay $18.75 for an autopsy right now, where it's $2,200 to $2,400 in Chicago. And they got the home rule, so they can push it anywhere they want to push it. So I'm just asking you to, as somebody else just say, take a look at this, because you're going to have to look for a pathologist. You're going to have somebody in there that has common sense up here and knows the laws, which we go under state statutes. You need to know to get this pathologist here, and if they want to come to Champaign. So it's very difficult. I went through that a long time ago, and I'm glad where we have 2 right now. So it's something that I think you should really learn about. And let me ask you a question, I'll close it. There's a state statutes for the Illinois coroners. Do you really know what a coroner does? We don't sit around in the office. I still go on all homicides and ODs right now as the coroner. I still have great deputies. We have to have 24 hours of continuing education every year. And as secretary, that's part of the job that I do, is get stuff out so these people and coroners can get their education. So I ask you if you have any questions. I'm the Kankakee County coroner. Be more than happy to answer any questions that you have about this. I feel I'm very knowledgeable in this, and I'm asking you to think about this. Don't get rid of an elected person, because you're going to, I just tried to hire a deputy coroner, 33 applications, and we ended up with 3 people out of that because they didn't know why they even wanted to be in there.
Thank you very much.
They didn't know anything about what
Thank
we
you.
do. One of the big things is they don't want to knock on the door at 3:30 in the morning and tell them about their loved ones. So
Thank you.
thank you. Thank all of you, and God bless you, and have a Merry Christmas.
All right, next up is Susan McGrath.
Good evening. Just as technology has been a little problem for you all this evening, it was for me too, so I could not print out what I sent to you all a couple of days ago. And I'm not going to read it because you all can read, and you have had to read a lot of materials to prepare for tonight's meeting. One thing I did want to say from that letter, and I'm sorry, Jim, but the timing was a little different than what you said about the recorder. and the county clerk being consolidated is that discussion actually started in October of 2019 when Mike Ingram, as candidate for recorder, said, hey, I'm going to campaign on eliminating the office and consolidating it with the county clerk. So there was actually almost a year and a half of discussion on that issue before the voters voted on this in 2021. That is what democracy really is. Democracy is having a full and robust discussion of the issues in an informed way, taking into consideration what the public actually thinks and allowing them to participate in it before they vote. My grandma used to say, haste makes waste. I bet you've heard that from some of your relatives as well. And it's true. It is a big step to change the system of government that we have now. And so it is an important question as to whether that makes sense to make this big of a change without having the kind of robust discussion you had when the consolidation of county clerk and recorder was considered by you all and also by the public. I have seen in the many years I've been involved in government and in the legal community what the difference is between appointment and election. And in my experience, appointment can lead to a couple of things: homogeny and not a full, transparent operation of whatever office the appointed person does. And I think that all of you stand for the proposition that democracy is important to all of us, no matter what the position is and what we're doing with that position. Earlier this year, I had assistance from the auditor's office that I greatly needed to help us deal with an outside audit, which was under very new rules for the very first time. That was something that was pressing on us from the Illinois Supreme Court, the administrative office of the Illinois courts, and you folks. It was important to a lot of people. And I could not have done that without somebody with the expertise to assist me in getting that job done. I might also add their office had to help me when I took office because there were 3 audits undone at the time I took office. So I had to do 4 outside audits in 2 years. And that I could not have done without the expertise of somebody who was able to guide me through that process. Independence is important. Elections are important. And let me tell you, I've run for office many times. I was on the county board for 16 years, and I ran, of course, for circuit clerk in 2020. I thought running in COVID year was the worst thing that could happen as running for elected office. But I was wrong. And I really feel for the people who are running for office this year that are fighting on 2 fronts. One, for the privilege of serving the public as coroner or auditor. And the second, fighting to keep the job as an elected position. You have the coroners folks who are basically running in a primary in 3 months where they have to fight those 2 fights. And I do not think that is what the public would want, nor is it fair to the candidates who are running for those offices. It's hard to put yourself out there, and now it's almost impossible because these 2 things are facing them. And frankly, that's going to be true for your auditor candidates as well. Jim Maguire said it best when he said, everybody who is facing this now is full of uncertainty. And I think that's true for the people who you are wanting to serve. I know this is a hard decision, and I trust that you will come up with the right one. And as Jim Quisenberry said, this is a tough job. I appreciate everything you do for the voters, and I appreciate what you have done for my office, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Susan. Next up is Nathan Smith.
Hello. I am just another one of the people who live in this area, who have seen what happens when you take those choices away. I'm not here to belabor the point anymore. Everyone else has already said it way more eloquently than I could. But I have so many questions as to how this came about. What was the intent? Who decided? And where is this going to go? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I mean, maybe in the grand scheme, somehow it makes more sense to somebody else. But I think it needs to really be considered more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mark Jocelyn.
Good evening. I really so appreciate your time, energy, commitment to public service and engagement. You're here for a reason. Each of you has run for and been elected to a public office. Let's see, I don't live here anymore. All three of my kids were born in Urbana. My father-in-law still lives in Urbana. We're back for the holiday. My son lives here. I could not be more proud of him as an individual in seeking to shape and channel energy towards a better future for all of us. I am, in fact, coming to you with an answer to what's been all of the conversation around the auditor and the coroner. The Kankakee auditor showed up. The auditor from Springfield showed up. Elected officials on their own private time, absent any encouragement, remuneration, or anything else, have come here tonight before you to suggest that the course of action you are perhaps considering pursuing is inappropriate, bad, characterize it how you choose to. They came to tell you it's a really bad idea. And I presume that that's true for the auditor. That's the people who mind the books, pay attention to the money, the dollar and cents. As elected officials, your primary responsibility is fiduciary. Managing the money. Where is it coming from? Who is it going to? Who are we paying? And to choose to make the auditor a not elected position does seem short-sighted. But the answer on the consent agenda, which I think is coming after this tonight, you have under C, Finance, adoption of resolution number 2023335, approving budget amendment BUA 2023-12114, Fund 1080, General Corporate Debt 140, Correctional Center, increased appropriations $470,145. I bet you that $500,000 would pay for a coroner and pay for an auditor. I have no question that that's true, including benefits and a livable wage, which I also expect most of you, when queried, would say, yes, we want to hire people to work for the county and pay them a livable wage, you know, so people can live in the county and do the service that you all are here as elected public officials to, what's the word I want? Facilitate. That's your jobs. How do we do better as a community to make lives for those of us, the folks who live here, or might have lived here, or might in the future live here like me, do better? And absent a coroner and an auditor, you're cutting yourself off at the knees, but oh my God, you got $500,000 to give to the correctional facility in town? Oh my goodness, people, please, just, do not pass this consent agenda item for $500,000, pull it off the consent, don't spend that money, and please, I encourage you, fund basic governmental services that you are elected to perform, which seems to me would include, I'm sorry, don't take this as aggression, take it as passion and commitment. I actually hold 2 elected offices. I sit on the Skyview Metropolitan Park Board. I sit on the North Bend City Council in Washington State. I've run for elected office. I've been on the Park Board 20 years. I'm usually on the other side of this table. I'm back for the holidays. I'm come here. I've listened again to the testimony. The testimony is unassailable. Do not do away with the coroner, and certainly, no one's speaking for the auditor because they're the tax people and they get the short shrift anyway. But consider them too, and don't get rid of the auditor. But for Pete's sakes, here's the answer. Do not fund $500,000 for the correction. Locking people up, you're treating the symptom and not the cause. So I encourage you as individuals, each and every one of you, I challenge you to find a way to not spend the $500,000 to pay the guards at the prison. Find a way to spend $500,000 such that there are fewer people, and less people who need to be locked up and sent away and dealt with by people in the prison. For Pete's sakes, fund community service, fund whatever you can fund. But do not spend $500,000 to hire more prison guards, because that does nothing to make anything better, and especially if, in the same meeting, at the same time, if you are going to do away with the auditor and the coroner and give $500,000 to the correctional officers, at the jail, you need to reconsider your commitment to public service. I really appreciate your time and energy and the fact that you're here and serving. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Ben Jocelyn.
Hey there, everybody. First, I want to wish everybody a happy solstice. Today is the day with the least light all year long. And we've made it. And here we are together working towards public governance. And I hope that as all of our days get just a little bit brighter and just a little bit longer, that so too to all of the struggles that we've been facing this year, public and individual, and that things, as our days get a little brighter, our troubles and struggles get just a little bit lighter, because it's not been easy. That said, I've been doing a lot of public meetings in my life. I've been involved at the city council meetings. I've come here before. I've been on boards of my own, all those sorts of things. And I've never in my life been to a meeting where the primary people speaking are public officials who are not speaking against the measure being proposed out of a nuanced understanding of what's going on, but instead out of surprise. These positions and these ideas that are being talked about, I'm not the most well-versed on this. I've never come to a meeting feeling less educated about the thing I'm about to speak about, because the public officials who do the job are undereducated and have less nuanced opinions to speak about. Their breadth of experience they can speak to about why they need it to be the way that you're thinking about changing it from, but they don't seem to have an understanding of why you're thinking about changing it. And so I'm not going to go into a long reason about why I think I know it should be different, because I don't know, because the public officials don't know. So when the vast majority of people speaking are folks who haven't had the time to process it. It's a dead cat on the line? Is that what I heard? Pretty sure it's a dead cat. Wish you all the best and a happy holiday.
Thank you. Next is Al Kurtz.
Good evening. I don't recognize many of you. Some of you recognize me. Let me introduce myself. My name is Alan Kurtz. I'm the past chairman of the county board. I was chairman, voted in by both Republicans and Democrats at the time when that didn't happen. So let me say I haven't been here in over a decade. I sort of swore myself off politics as I see the division that goes on now between Democrats and Republicans. My door was always open to both Republicans and Democrats. I talked with them, gave them a full listening hearing, and worked to compromise both on their concerns and the concerns of the Democratic Party that I have been a member of my entire life. I'm here today because I don't like the idea of seeing a power grab taking place by this board. I've watched and I've listened, and I know George very well. I support him entirely. 100% of his efforts are to the good of this community, to the public oversight of this board. And what you're trying to do, very simply, for those few who are pushing this idea, is that you don't want oversight. You don't want to be watched like every other board should be. To me, it's an absolute essential for you to have an auditor looking over your shoulder. I had George in my office many a time when he would say to me, Al, we have this concern, we have this problem. What do you think we can do about solving it? I did that with every elected official in this county. And I can only say to you right now that the community will not stand for the fact that you decide to take over the auditor's office. And I am here to support George 100% on both sides of the aisle, hoping that the Republicans and those Democrats who see that it's absolutely necessary to have an auditor independent of this county board. Thank you very much, and I hope you make a proper and right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the board?
Can I say something quick? My name is John Porter. I'm the pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. I just want to say this on today. I want to commend, give me a name, Mr. Dwayne. As an official, what he does is coroner office, for him to sit up here tonight and say that people have tried to persuade him to do things that he shouldn't do. The question tonight becomes to those of us that are sitting here, how many of you have been tried to be persuaded to do the wrong thing or do something like what's going on tonight? Taking a voice away. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think some things ought to be discussed and really looked at before you make a major decision to have to come together like this. I think this is what sows discord. When you got these folk trying to do this, and you know this is the wrong thing to do, you know, I think discord tries to be thrown out there on the, and it makes the board look bad. Even if you're not with it, you sit here with everybody, and it makes it look like you're part of the move that shouldn't be made. As a young person, as a young man, I say to you tonight, in the future, think about these kind of decisions before you have to sit down at this table. Sometimes we get in a power struggle. And some of us have to remember that the community, the votes of the people are what got us in the seats that we're in today. And so we don't want to take that voice away from the people. We want to let the people make their decision on their own versus trying to move from an elected official to an appointed. And I just speak on behalf of doing what's right. And again, stop trying to rush things. That's what I was taught as a young man. When you rush stuff, you mess it up. And I'm a young man. And all of us sitting in front of me, I think everybody in front of me probably is older than me. And you've heard some sayings as well. When you try to rush things, and eventually whatever's trying to be pushed out there will eventually show. Here's my ending, and I'm wrong. My Bible teaches me, if I'm wrong, tell me, and all that get an understanding. So when you put stuff out there like this, allow other folks the time to understand what you're trying to do. Because if you don't let them understand what you're trying to do, it makes it look like you're trying to do something and it don't look good. So when we leave here tonight, let's make sure we make the right decision and not make a decision just because this is what we feel like we want or what we think is right. Let everybody have their opinion to express themselves how it's been done in the past. Thank you.
Mr. Ford, if you would, please fill out a public participation sheet.
No problem.
Thank you. All right, that concludes public comment, and I'm going to have a 5-minute recess before we get into the rest of the agenda. So we will adjourn again in 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, folks, it's been 5 minutes, so as you make your way back, please do quickly. We've got employees to honor tonight. Okay. All right. Calling this meeting of the County Board back to order. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, Ms. Locke and Ms. Locke-Shin. There's no discussion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vanich Theranot.
Yes.
Wilson.
Here.
Carter. Cowart. Esri.
Yes.
Farney.
Yes.
Furtado. Hanauer Friedman. Nope. Locke.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
Michaels. Yes. Pugh. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers. Yes. Sexton.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Storr. Oh. Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, communications. Clerk Ammons has a quick update to share about their restrictive covenant project.
No, you're fine.
All right, everybody, so this is about the restrictive covenant project that we're doing in the clerk and recorder's office, coming from the recorder's side in particular. So I'm excited to provide the county board with a brief update on the recorder's office and our Champaign County Covenant project. So for those of you who may not understand exactly what a covenant, what I'm talking about, the restrictive covenants are basically documents that were created and they were applied to mostly new developments and subdivisions that prohibited African Americans from living, renting, or owning homes in those particular areas. So throughout much of the fall, our team completed a search of the county land record. That search identified 19 separate areas in the county with racially restrictive covenants. These areas combined amount to more than 900 individual addresses, many of them homes. My office is currently preparing correspondences specific to each of the 900-plus addresses. Because most people have no clue these covenants are associated with their property, these mailings will include a letter detailing the exact language of the racially restrictive covenant those homeowners are living under. It will also contain a covenant modification petition and a return envelope so residents interested in having these covenants repealed from the current land record have that option. For us to work with the state's attorney's office on repealing such a covenant, 2/3 of the owners in each of the 19 areas must affirm their interest in making a change based on submissions of the modification petitions. That petition form is still being reviewed by the state's attorney's office to make sure we have the best possible process and legal framework to move forward. I've also formed an advisory committee, of which Board Member Rodriguez is a member, And that's to help us with our dual mission of sharing this history in the community and explaining the impact of housing discrimination in Champaign County. We are hoping to get a finalized date for January 2024 soon, so we can keep this progress going. So this is an exciting project that's making progress, and I'm glad to share this with the county board. I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Grant Chassie, who works in my office right now, and he has been spearheading our intern program, running it or continuing it, and he's been working with these students at the University of Illinois who have come to our office to do this work, and they have done a phenomenal job going through the land records, finding all of these particular deeds, spending ample time working on this project, and I just wanted to give a shout out to him before he leaves the office. And I'm really excited to be able to see what Board Member Rodriguez will bring to the table. We had this conversation early on. Many of you may recognize redlining as more of something that sort of rings a bell for you quicker than a racially restrictive covenant, because I did not know about it. Ms. Coward is saying, yes, she knows, she understands that as well. And when you think about how property taxes pay for our schools, when African Americans were locked out of particular areas and could not live in the more developed areas, that meant our children were going to go to schools that did not have as much of as a property base to be educated. So this is something that we're really, really excited about to be able to share. We're not doing this to malign people or to throw somebody under the bus. We're not forcing people to sign these projects or these petitions. We simply want to make sure that that everyone knows what happened, and see what we glean from that education. And I hope the advisory committee will give us some direction on what else we can do with this information. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Go ahead, Ms. Lockshin.
If this isn't something that's already been addressed, maybe it's something for the advisory committee, but if there's any kind of, I guess, outward-facing information that we can be aware of as a board so that we can communicate this more effectively if people reach out to us and say, what is this about? I just want to make sure that I'm passing on accurate information and letting them know, like you said, this isn't something reflective on you. This is what's in the covenant. And Ellie and I were lucky we got to come into the office 2 weeks ago or so. We met with Grant and the interns and saw actually one of the covenants that's on the books, and that was really interesting to see. I'm glad that you've got staff going through and correcting that. But yeah, just language that we can work with would be great. Thank you.
No problem.
Aaron.
Yes, thanks. Mr. Ammons, just thanks for this update. Just a question. I just didn't hear it addressed. Are you done looking in the county, or are you still actively looking for more areas than these 19? I mean, if you're done looking, you're pretty darn sure you've covered everything. That's great. But if you aren't, just was curious.
Sure. So we believe that we're done at this particular point, and we found 19 of them. And when we read an article that Pastor Jeff or Dr. Jeff Trask wrote a couple of weeks ago about, it was in his reparations article, but he was talking about the work that had already been done where they found 18 of them, and then we found another one as well. So, but that search is done, and Jenny, Board Member Lockshin pointed out, she said it was interesting to see some of that. As an African American, to go into there, and it was one thing to hear about these things, but to see it handwritten or typed, it was more than jarring. It really took my breath away to just see something like that written that way. And so we hope that education can be shared with the public, and hopefully the individuals, that 2/3 majority in each one of these 19 locations, will be willing to make that modification. It does not remove the language. There's an amendment that's made to that, to the language that's in the book. So it's not like it's going to be taken off the books. I thought there was another question.
Thank you. Samantha.
I just want to thank you for this. I did do a little bit of research with the redlining when that came out a couple of years ago. One thing that we cannot look over or pass, Champaign County's racism, right? And how do we fix it? How do we move forward? How do we right those wrongs? So I'm just blown away. Thankful for you and your staff for doing this work, because it's definitely much needed in our county. Thank you.
Beth.
Hey, Aaron, I was curious, have you reached out to the Champaign County Historical Society for any assistance on this as well? Because I know they got a lot of records that maybe you guys no longer have or might be outdated or lost.
So this is exactly why we've pulled together the advisory committee. We've certainly, Angie Patton works in my office as well, and she has an understanding and relationship with the folks at the University of Illinois. So there are lots of different places that we've thought about where this information could be stored, could be archived, could be shared in different places, but that is certainly one that we will consider if we haven't already. Grant's probably back there saying we've already done that, but I don't have that information with me right now. But certainly that's what this advisory committee is about, how to bring in more information and ideas on how we can use this information to educate our community.
Emily.
Thank you. Yep, I just want to, you and I have definitely talked about this, but just mention how excited I am for this project. This is something that I've been passionate about for a very long time. And I just want to note, this is something that we would be on the cutting edge of. So in particular, if you want a point of reference to look at how this is being done in other areas, that's the Edwin and Washington project, and that's in Virginia. And the Washington Post wrote about this in 2020. But overall, I think that it is deeply significant that we as a county are the ones doing this work. This is our data. We're talking about Urbana Public Library maybe giving information. No, the way that we access this is through our records. That's why this is so significant that we are doing this. And the application of that data, mapping it out, allowing us to focus our efforts and allowing it to be like a map layer almost, and the way that we analyze how we're distributing funds, et cetera, is deeply significant. This is a massive resource that we would be uncovering here and putting this all in one location. So again, deeply important that the county is leading this. I think this is a great use of our records, and this will be a massive resource for the county in general.
Go ahead, Jen.
Forgive me if I missed this. How will we, as taxpayers, if we are not in one of those 19 areas, which none of us know at this point, right? Not none of us, you all know. How will we access this information? It's so significant.
Well, I think that Board Member Rodriguez just laid out something, and I'm just, at this point, we were just trying to pull this information together and bring the advisory committee, but you've just jarred something for me as we work with maybe GIS to layer, to create maps and things like that, to help us give direction to our support and which communities are we going to direct funds to, because we know these communities have been more underserved than others. So I think that I'm interested and intrigued by that. You all, I just want to say very clearly that I'm excited about it, but I don't know where it's going directly, right, just at this moment. And so that's why we've reached out to professors at the University of Illinois. Grant, I'm sorry, would you please come up for a second? Because there's some other information that I know I'm going to miss that I think I would like for you all to at least have some idea about who we have on the list of people who are going to be on the advisory committee and some of the things that we've discussed, what we would do with this information. Please, would you share?
So we have an advisory committee of several members, all of whom I can't remember on the spot. I hope you'll forgive me, but we are going to be meeting in mid-January to bring more information to the board to make sure that the public understands these records. And if any of you are wondering if your house is in one of these plats, for example, you're able to go to the recorder's office at any time. It's all free public records. You can just see if you're in there. So we're trying to make that more accessible by doing mapping, by doing public outreach, and by engaging particularly advisory committee members to make sure people are not just unaware of what's happening and what we're trying to do.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that y'all's committee request some ARPA money to do the map, because I know that to do an ArcGIS map layer like that, we get charged back for that. And that data would be incredibly useful for the county, but I also think it would be useful for outside entities that are going for grants. So like if you're going for a grant for some sort of social service program based on racial disparity, the more evidence you have of that. And GIS maps are like one of the best sources for grant data. So that it would be a valuable layer for the county. I almost feel like it'd be almost a more valuable layer for like outside groups that we could provide as a county, and we'd have to do some education that it existed. And it would be one of the goals of ARPA is to ensure investment in underserved communities going forward. So I think it would be like a really and also the digitization of the records is being accomplished through ARPA money. It would be a nice bow on that. I don't think it'll be a lot of money, but I know GIS charges us back. So that would be a suggestion for 2024.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. It's just so much. This is, for me, it's a very emotional thing. Also, I'm trying to contain that and just keep it focused from a professional standpoint, but it is a very emotional thing, and it does have a lot of history that it affects. And as Ms. Cowart spoke about, or raised her hand about redlining, and so we look forward to being able to bring this information to everybody. It's the type of project I think many of you might be able to help. Board Member Lockshin, you was talking about getting more language to you all, because I don't want, it is not our intentions for individuals who find themselves in one of those 19 areas to feel like they are being attacked or anything like that. That's not what this is about. So the more people we have to be able to make calls, go door to door, speak to people about signing up to get that 2/3 majority, I think it would be a great thing for us to accomplish that, to look at our community moving forward from a very racist history of our county in that regard. So thank you all. If that's
Ms.
all the
Cowart.
questions. Oh, Ms. Cowart, yes.
I'd like to say I experienced that 2 years ago. I was out house hunting, and the realtors I was working with, the houses that I would give him that I wanted to see, he would never let me see them. He would take me to different houses, like those houses off Washington, not too far from here, and, you know, different houses in low-income neighborhoods, you know. And so it went on for over a year, and I just decided to give up the house hunting because I wasn't seeing the houses I wanted to see. And then, too, when you get these loans, they last for just a certain amount of time. Some of them last for 6 months. Some of them even shorter time than that. So I got tired of it, you know, and I say, well, they're not going to show me anything that I want to see or anything that I can move in ready. You know, they're going to show me houses that need repair in some kind of way, you know. So I just gave it up, you know. And I just want to say I'm glad that this is being discussed, because I heard about redlining in 1974 when I first moved down here. And I talked to some people at the bank, and they like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, you know. And so
Yeah.
I'm just glad of it. Keep up the good work, Aaron.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And your voice, I hope, we just made me think, and I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not going to keep eating up all this time. I know we've been here a long time. But this is so important, especially to the African-American community, for our elders and our seniors to be able to speak to what they felt and what they dealt with. So that's going to be something else that we can share in this project, and maybe bring more people, especially our seniors in the African-American community, to come out and tell their stories about what happened to them and how they were pressed in a particular direction. But to hear you say that it is still happening to you is deeply disturbing, and today for that still to be taking place. So I look forward to making sure that this project works for the entire community. And again, thank you for your service.
You don't get to leave yet. Samantha
Nope.
has another
Oh,
comment,
okay.
so you got to stay
Because
there.
she just sparked my
I tried to
interest
lose
again,
that.
my brain too, because just speaking to the elders in my family, wondering why African Americans were all on one side of town, speaking with my mom and hearing her story during the process of buying her home, like, it all makes sense. And it was like hidden from what I read, if I can remember right, that the realtors knew about it, right? But the bankers didn't, right? And so, you know, just to hear her say that, right, that still something is in the back of their minds, which I feel like during this research, hopefully we can bring some realtors in and get their input and talk about this, because some have been conditioned to do work like this, right? You take the black people over here, you take the white people over here, right? So she just sparked my brain when she said that, because this is real. There is reasons why there are so many African Americans in one particular part of town, because that was the only place where they could purchase homes. And so this research definitely need to be brought to the limelight so everybody knows, you know. And then where do we go from here? How can we make it better and more equal for everyone, as far as when they're going through the home buying process and not being forced to buy a home in a particular area? You know, this is real good information that you're sharing with the public, so I thank you.
So Brother Robbie Walker was here, and of course Sean Williams talked about these veterans, many veterans that we have here in the room. Even with the GI Bill, when they came home, you couldn't live in these particular areas. You can go live in this dilapidated area over here and buy a house over there, and we might give you some funding. But this new subdivision or this new plat or new neighborhood we just built with brand new homes, you're not allowed to live over there. So maybe some of that money that the VA is getting, they might want to donate some too. Robbie, I thought he was still here. Anyway, all right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Grant. Before we move on to board communications, I just want to say how happy I am that Member Court is here with us tonight. So. Now, do any members of the board have communications they wish to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a law that's going to take effect. It's called the Paid Leave for All Workers Act. It's going to take effect on January 1st. My experience with this is with the U of I. I supervise academic hourlies and what's called 900-hour extra help people. These are people who only get paid for the hours they work. I have some academic hourly people that have been with the university for years while we fight to make a real position out of it. I've had 900-hour people. It's taken me 2 or 3 rounds to get a civil service position with. I have a long break starting as soon as I get out of this meeting until January 2nd, because I work at the U of I and I got gift days from the administrators. It's not a gift for my academic hourlies. They're just unpaid until January 2nd. So happy holidays to them. So I find this wonderful. I understand that there's still some direction that needs to come, but basically, and I'm only going to read one bullet point, beginning January 1st, 2024, employers are mandated to provide employees 1 hour of paid leave per 40 hours worked and allow the employees to carry over up to 40 hours of paid leave each year. This is considered the minimum standard for paid leave. So this is a good step forward for those people who just won't get paid until January 2nd, in my case. And I understand from Michelle that the county's working out how this is going to apply to some of the people here. It doesn't apply to union workers, but it applies to all these hourly people, and there's a ton of them in the world.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else? Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, County Executive. I'm really impressed by the amount of people that came out here to talk about the 2 resolutions regarding eliminating from the elected process both the coroner and the auditor. And I think we all felt that passion and understanding. And I too have similar questions to, well, the unanimous communication from our community. And I think in light of the fact that there are still individuals here that are representing that interest, either we do 1 of 2 things. Either 1, we move those resolutions to the front of the agenda so it can be addressed quickly, or we just postpone them indefinitely. So I received a phone call today, and I got my ear full also, but I just want to, whether this is proper protocol or not, I actually, frankly, just want to say that I understand what the public is saying, and I wholeheartedly agree with what their statements are. That's the end of my communication.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, we're moving on to approval of the minutes. Can I get an anonymous motion to approve the minutes for October 19th and November 21st, 2023? Okay, Jen Straub, Samantha, motion and a movement, motion and a second. Sorry? All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Summary action taken at county facilities meeting is received and placed on file. Summary of action taken at the December 12th Committee of the Whole is received and placed on file. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2023-350 honoring retiring county employees? All right, motion by Jamala, second by Kyle. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Wilson, would you please read the resolution?
Thank you. Hey, it gives me great pleasure to read this resolution honoring those retiring as county employees. There are 18 people on this list. I'm on page 61 and 62. Here's the resolution honoring retiring county employees. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be a recognized leader in local government where every official and employee has a personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enables Champaign County to provide the best customer service to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to the Champaign County is valued and appreciated, and whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibilities of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interest of all the people of Champaign County, and whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who are retiring fiscal year 2023. Just a couple more days. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Champaign County Board recognizes each of the aforementioned retiring Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and expresses gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service. Presented, adopted, approved, and recorded the 21st day of December in the year of our Lord 2023. And I need a drink of water real quick. All right, I'm going to read the names. There are 18 people here. And forgive me if I don't say your name totally correctly. But anyway, number one, Rita Kinchula, 4-year service, thank you. Audra Owens, 7-year service, thank you. Stephen Guest, 10-year service, thank you. Linda McCoy, 10-year service, thank you. Bradley Gould, 10-year service, thank you. Joni Hester, 17 years, thank you. Dana Craig, 17, thank you. All right, help me with this one. Sherilyn Janeski. All right, Sherilyn, 18 years, thank you. Christine Ward, 19 years, thank you. Whitman Davis, 20 years, thank you. I'm going to need help again. Gussia Adams. Is that right? Okay, no one. All right, well, Gussia, thank you, 21 years. And Tata Gill, 22. John Cooper, 22 years. Patricia Walls, 25 years. Thank you. And Linda Osborne, 26 years. Thank you. And Jason Atwood, 26 years. And 2 more. Keith Willis, 35 years. Thank you so much. And finally, Mr. Todd Reed, 40 years of service. Thank you for your great service thank you all, 18 individuals, for your service to Champaign County.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 2023-351 honoring county employees reaching milestone years of service? Okay, Jen Locke and J.J. Farney. Mr. Wilson, would you please read the resolution?
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, resolution number 2023-351, resolution honoring county employees. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be a recognized leader in local government where every official employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enables Champaign County to provide the best customer service to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibilities of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interest of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who have reached 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35-year milestones in fiscal year 2023. Now therefore it be resolved that the Champaign County Board of Champaign County hereby recognizes each of the aforementioned Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and does indeed express gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service, presented, adopted, approved, and recorded this 21st day of December in the year of our Lord 2023. All right, now the names. I'm going to read the names of 18 individuals that have had 5 years of service. Each of these have had 5 years of service. Christopher Jellin, Lori Wickus, Shannon Barrett, Patrice Brinkman, Cody Floyd, Kristen Afferink, Brooke Hinman, Brittany McKnight, Daniel Reynolds, Haley Hickenbottom, Allison Watkins, Lucas Roush, Mary Ward, Jerry Huey, Clayton Goodwin, Craig Wakefield, Jennifer Wiedekamp, and Laura Keller. 5 years of service. Thank you so much. Next is 8 individuals with 10 years service. Cody Fordyce, Wendy Murphy, Andrew Griffith, Kimberly Easton Morris, Christopher Wilson, not related to me, by the way, Dana Brenner, Kelby Foster, Christopher Smith, Guadalupe Fuentes. Oh, 15. Oh, I went 10 years. That's too fast. Sorry. All those 10 years. Thank you so much. And now 15. There's 10. Guadalupe Fuentes, Stephanie Hunt, Gwen Uppinghouse, Christopher Darr, Richard Ferryman, Kimberly Bowdry, Christopher Berry, Louis Seaton, Todd Smith, and Jamie Christians, 15 years of service. Thank you. Now the next looks like 7 for 20 years service. Rita Carr, Barbara McLean, Angela Lusk, Lindsay Clark Revist, Jeffrey Nugent, Philip Robeck, Carrie Vogus, 20 years, thank you. In the next 25 years, Timothy Pavlik, Jennifer Jarvis, Charles Schwab. 25 years. Okay, and then 30 years, Anissa Lewis. Did I say that right? Anissa? Anissa? Anissa?
She's in my office. Anissa Lewis.
All right, Anissa Lewis. All right, way to go. 30 years, thank you so much. Thomas Foster, Carly Robert. Cale Robertson, forgive me, Cale. And then Robert Waggle, all 30 years. And the last 2, looks like 35 years. Janelle Albright and John Neese. Is it Neese? Nacy. All right, Janelle and John, thank you. 35 years of service. Thank you all. 4 years of service.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. If there's no objection, can I get an omnibus motion to approve adoption of resolution 2023-352, authorizing payment of claims, and adoption of resolution number 2023-353, approving purchases not following purchasing policy. Motion, okay, we have a motion by Diane, second by Jenny, excuse me. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, Eric, would you read this next ordinance for me, please, since you're the chair of ELUC?
Yeah, this is a little different than what you see in your agenda. I move to approve ordinance number 2023-21, granting a special use permit in zoning case 100S23, Champaign Solar 1B, PV solar farm, including the decommissioning and site reclamation plan, and replacing ordinance number 2023-18 that was approved on November 21st, 2023.
All right, motion. Okay, JG with a motion, Kyle with the second.
Yeah, for discussion.
Any discussion, yes.
Yeah, there's a few things here. We voted to approve this on the 21st, but thanks to Mr. Smith, we detected an anomaly, as they say, and I will read what John put in the memo that's in all of our packages. At the 11/21/23 board meeting, board member Mike Smith asked why ordinance number 2023-18 contained different waivers than the 10/30/2023 ELOC memorandum for cases 99S23 and 100S23, and Mr. Hall explained that the ELOC memorandum was an error. However, when Mr. Hall checked the next day with the senior planner who had drafted the ordinance, they found that the error was in fact in the ordinance 2023-18, and the error got introduced during the cut and paste and drafting the ordinance. The new ordinance 2023-21 is correct, and the waivers are identical to those in the 10/30/2023 memorandum for the cases 99 and 100S23. Ordinance 2023-21 includes item number 6 that states this ordinance replaces ordinance number 2023-18, and that was approved November 21st. And Mr. Hall apologizes for the errors, completely understandable in an office where reams and reams of paper get put together. So, and we're really happy, one, that Mike spotted that and that John was able to dig into that and correct it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, could I ask the clerk to please call the roll?
Vantage Theronot.
Yes.
Wilson.
No.
Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
No.
Farney.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Yes.
Lockshin. Michaels.
No.
Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. No. Smith. No. Straub.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
Yes.
Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Go ahead. No, it just needs a simple majority. That's fine. All right, motion passes. If there's no objection, can I get an omnibus motion to approve annual renewal of recreation and entertainment licenses for Gordyville, Hudson Farm Wedding and Events, and Champaign County Fair Association for terms all ending 12/31/2024. All right, Lorraine has the motion. Ed has the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Other business now. Is Kathy here? Yes, she is. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sticking with us, Kathy. I appreciate it greatly. She's going to do an update on our ARPA project. Thank you for sticking around with us.
Good evening. We included the monthly updates with the status of projects and the contracts as well, and we've updated those where they are. There's even been an update since last week. For example, the SLEEP program has a signed contract now. And So, and then we also provided the financial update, and we continue to work with all the departments and the outside agencies on all their payments and their reporting, and where they're at on their timelines with their projects. We also are working with county admin to develop a marketing piece that will highlight these projects and where we're at with those for this next year. And I also want to mention that the 2024 column will be in process of updating where we're at year end, plus what was approved in the budget, so that we'll see where we're at with what was spent as of the year end for this year. So I can also take questions on specific topics as well.
Anyone? Go ahead, Jen.
I don't have a specific question. I actually just have a suggestion for the future in that Kathy is very patient and waits for us to do all kinds of things on every agenda, and I wonder if we could make a practice of putting her much earlier on in the agenda for the future.
Noted.
I would agree with that motion. Is that a motion to do that, or how does that process go?
That's noted. We will look at that and putting the next agenda together. Thank you. Seeing no other questions. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jeff. I saw you, Jeff. You're up. So
Okay,
next one
alrighty.
can raise their hand after that.
Hey, Kathy, thanks for being here. And I was really glad to see the two veterans organizations show up and give their progress for 2023 and then their hopes for 2024. And then I also reached out to Macy, Muhammad Area Youth Club, MAYC, not MACY. And just, I want to thank you for working with them to get their contract finally issued, right? So they have about $240,000 and they're getting $60,000 in December, correct? And then they'll have 2024 to spend the extra $200,000. I did want to mention they thought it would be like a sort of a 2-year program. So, but starting late December, I don't know if they may need to have some of that money for 2025. I think that may be possible. But anyway, thank you so much for working with the Muhammad Area Youth Club for getting their funding and their contract. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Samantha.
I'm going to echo other county board members. You do great. You're so patient. We really appreciate your spirit here at Champaign County. Thank you so much. I want to know, what would be the best way to promote the sleep program? Like, do they need to come to the RPC and sign up, or do you have administration going out to those areas? I want to know, how can I promote this program? Because it's just been such a delight to see our neighborhood just lit, even with the city of Champaign and the county upgrades with the street lights. But before then, with just having the yard pole and the exterior lighting just gave us extra lighting, until we waited on the rest of the project to be completed. So the video doorbells, I'm pretty sure you can ask other neighbors in our neighborhood. It's been catching crime on our video doorbells. Like, I'm talking to neighbors, seeing that they're picking up stuff, and I see our neighborhood transforming. I really do, and I thank the city of Champaign for administering the sleep program, and then I want to thank Champaign County for also administrating the program to outside of Garden Hills. That was just a blessing for all. Thank you.
Go ahead, JJ.
It's been a couple of months since I've asked this, Kathy. The broadband project, here we are at the end of December, and we're still at $1,815. Any movement at all from those folks? Anything that we can expect soon?
Yes, so both NextLink and Volo submitted their applications to the state for the additional broadband funding. So the applications are in, and the contracts are signed with the county. And so hopefully by early 2024, they would hear back if they get those funds to supplement what we would provide. We have a clause in the contracts where if we don't hear by March of 2024, we would renegotiate some other terms to help get broadband expanded.
Further questions? Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I'll make it. If you could just help me out, Kathy. I'll talk louder too. If you could just help me out on page 96 on the broadband, it talks about, looks like a project completion at 85,500, and the explanation is that was for the master plan. So, okay, I'm good with that now. So when I go back to page 100 on the spreadsheet, should that show up like as an actual expenditure somewhere? I can't find the 85,500 for that on that spreadsheet.
Yes, so that's included under Finley Consulting, and part of it was, let's see, let me try to match this. I know we paid Finley, if that's 110,000 listed, part of that included that last year for the master plan.
Okay, so there was additional expenditure then that's not shown on page 96?
Well, we also consulted with Finley in general for broadband expansion, so they helped coordinate the plan and provided consultation services for broadband.
Okay, thank you.
They've been working with both of the providers to kind of continue to move things along. Okay, anyone else with questions for Kathy?
If Miss Kathy can answer that question, how do we promote the sleep program? Thank you.
Yeah, so I can check with Lisa Benson. I know they have a marketing piece in their budget, and I know there was direct marketing plan, but I don't know the details, so we can get those details and send those to you, if that would, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Michelle Jett's going to give some information about the compensation proposal that we've had some earlier discussion on. This will be an update.
So just the formal ARPA request to fund this $75,000 project, which would take our conversation about job classification, consolidation, unification, and equalization, and actually turn it into a workable plan that we can implement, preferably for the next union contract round, which will start actually at the end of 2024.
Any questions? Hearing none, great. And since you're up there already, you can go into the quick presentation about the new county seal.
Sorry, I do think we need to like kind of thumbs up that, because this would be coming out of ARPA money for 2024, and so our tradition has been to
Okay.
thumbs up if we want that too.
I thought we did too, but let's do it again.
I know we talked about it in the budget process, but I think the only thing we formally funded, I would have to go back and read my notes, but I think the only thing we formally thumbs up in the budget process for ARPA, because I don't think we had a cost for this, was the clerk's money that he needed for the machine. That I know for sure we formally, I think this one, we theoretically said, but I think we said, come back to us with a dollar amount. I
Well,
could be wrong,
let's
but
just
I
make sure.
think I am.
Is it the intention of the board to go ahead and look at funding this program? I'm looking around, I'm seeing mostly thumbs up, all thumbs up. All right, thumbs up. Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Again, quick presentation regarding the new county seal, which we've already deferred, I think, at least once. So, Michelle.
Yeah, we don't have to make a decision tonight. If you just want to give me some input, if you don't want to do this, whatever. But I also just wanted to present them fully in color so you could see what we were talking about in case you hadn't looked online. So this is the first one, the second one, and the third one. And the intent would be to replace that seal there on the wall.
Diane.
I'm just going to put this out here. As we're talking about budgets and money, to change the seal in this county would be astronomical. All the stationery, just anything we do and anything that happens, our IT guys would have to do things. I just think right now that this isn't a necessary item to be spending money on. That's just my 2 cents.
I think we could certainly phase it in as we go
Yeah.
through the material that we have, and that would be no additional expense if that was the case. You know, I like our current seal. I will say it is vastly superior to Vermilion County's seal, if anyone has seen it, but I think it could do with some improving. And I understand your concern about cost, but if we can get around the additional cost, at least for some time, I think taking a look at this is certainly worth discussion by the board.
Yeah, to clarify, the new seal would be introduced as whatever it is that's on is used and being replaced. And it is ideally a good time, as we're moving into the new building as well, to be putting the new seal in for the new things that we have to create in the new building, as opposed to maybe changing it in a year or two if we decide to do that.
Emily?
I've got strong feelings about this. I think this is a really, really good idea. I think ours looks like clip art that has been
Oh, you haven't
splashed
seen
together.
Vermilion
Oh,
County's.
Stephanie has just baptized me into that knowledge just now. So I think this is a great effort. I think phasing it in, it makes sense, etc. I also have very strong opinions. I like option 2. Option 1 is my least favorite. I like the color one, so just option 2. Or I don't know if you need both or whatever, but so again, I think it's a great effort. It brings us kind of back into maybe this century. It looks more current, doesn't look like MS Paint, so all around good move.
Jenny?
I'll try to be quick because I know we've got big things coming up. And I also don't want to start any beef with Vermilion County. I also really like to, but in discussing it further, have reservations about how it would scale to a round logo, if that was necessary for things like printing around or creating a round seal. Is that going to cause additional costs and issues for producing something with a little jut out of the top of the courthouse there? Just something to consider.
Well, as facilities chair, you can talk with Dana about that and see
About
what his thoughts are.
what the signage costs would be, yes.
Yeah, I know
Yes,
he's
I can
already
bring that
consulted
up.
with signage people for Bennett in terms of electronic signs and others. So
Okay.
I would say at facilities, bring that up with him and see what he says.
Okay, I'll find out.
JJ?
So my question would actually end up being for the county clerk, because they actually have to put an imprinted seal on things. And so I'd want to make sure that we get input from him as to what's going to work and what won't, because with these intricate details, don't want to cause troubles for them.
Yeah, I like the look of 2, but I think the impracticality of it just kind of rules it out. I just wanted to present you with all the options that the designer had presented me with, but I do think there's a variety of ways that it will be very difficult to practically use 2. But I think 1 and 3 can easily be translated into the various needs that we have.
Emily? Oh, I'm sorry. Was it Eric?
I think 3 is the only one that looks serious. I think that 1 and 2, I'm sorry, Emily, they look like something I'm going to see on the side of an HVAC truck or something driving around. They look kind of derivative of a lot of stuff that's around in the county, because I think the same firm is doing a lot of stuff and they're running out of ideas. This one looks like a government thing. It looks like a seal. I mean, maybe it looks a little like the Illuminati is up there in the tower, but it looks official. I know it's a little tougher to deal with because of the detail in it, but maybe a slightly simpler version of this one that looks a little bit more like an actual government seal as opposed to a daycare or something.
And there's 30 rays of light, and I don't know if that's what you're referring to represent the 30 townships that are in the county.
Well, this is discussion only, folks. So I'm glad we're having some discussion. You've got copies of it. Let's look at it, and Jenny can talk with our facilities director about signage costs. Sure, go ahead, Samantha.
Does it have to be a picture of the courthouse, though?
Well, it doesn't have to be a picture of the courthouse, but it's our most distinct building.
It is, but that's not good memories for everybody, all constituents of Champaign County. I mean, I like the second one, but if I could, I don't know. I'm just speaking for me and my people, right? That's not something that I would want to see on everything. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Kyle?
I just want to say real quick, number one reminds me of the Tower of Sauron from Lord of the Rings. And it's just kind of creepy.
Isn't that the vibe we want?
You know, I thought I was hard on Vermilion County, but all right. Thank you very much. We've all got copies of this. This is discussion, so we can think about it and then have further discussion later. Thank you. I'm glad that we finally got this point in. All right. Can I get a motion for Resolution 2023-354, a resolution placing the question of elimination of the elected office of county coroner in Champaign County on the March 2024 election ballot? And I will ask for a roll call on this, please. Excuse me, I have the motion. The meeting's gone long, folks. Give me just a break here. Do I have a motion for this? JJ, do I have a second? All right, Ms. Rodriguez. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Jeff.
I would like to move that this motion be postponed indefinitely.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone. All in favor signify by saying aye. I stand corrected. There's no discussion on this. Well, Jeff had, all right, Jeff was, sorry, it's past my bedtime, guys. All right, further discussion. We have a motion and a second to, go ahead, Stephanie.
Just from a procedural standpoint, I think then what you need to do is motion to table it. Typically postponing something it's to a specific date. Is there a postpone indefinitely on your Robert's Rules of Order sheet?
Could you turn on your microphone, please?
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I'm reading number 11, Robert's Rules of Order,
Okay.
motions chart. And so
Okay.
I'm not the more Roberts guy. Farney's more Roberts than I am. I move that the motion be postponed indefinitely equals killing the main motion. So am I wrong with that?
Oh, okay. No, okay. Nope. I think you just clarified what you were doing, though.
Oh, okay. So I want to kill this thing, but I try to do it professionally.
All right, we have a motion on the second on the floor to, I'm sorry, we're not tabling it. We are, help me again, Jeff? Postponing indefinitely?
It says postpone definitely, which equals killing.
We are
the motion.
postponing indefinitely. Let's have a roll call on that, please.
I would suggest that if anybody wants to discuss the original motion, you need to do it now in terms of postponing it. Otherwise, if we vote on that, then that's that. There's no more discussion. So if anybody has a reason they don't want to postpone it indefinitely, now is the time that they should make that case, just from a procedural standpoint, because we will not, if we pass this, we will not be going back to the original motion. So just so folks understand that, like, process-wise.
Thank you, Stephanie. Emily?
Thanks. I will be voting, let me get this straight here, to not postpone it, and I will also be voting yes if we get to that stage on both of these. A couple points that I want to make here. First, I want to distinguish, I want to orient my comments to what was said in public comment. And again, there's about 3 points I want to make, and then one kind of overarching comment that I'd just like us to keep an eye on as time goes forward. First, we think we should distinguish between administrative roles, so jobs that are administrative in nature. They perform. They are not leading a particular political discussion. They are not moving an agenda forward, and a political office, one that is elected by the people, and that is something with a political agenda that you run on, that you campaign on, and that takes the skills to campaign in order to kind of get that message to Champaign County voters. So that's reason number one why I'll be voting for this if we get to that point. Next, I want to think about these roles personally within a wider universe of what we are doing administratively. And one key point on that is grants, or applying for grants. And that is something that the county executive, we've done work on. We are in the process of hiring, right?
We have a part-time grant person on staff now.
Wonderful, wonderful. And coroner is a great example of the usefulness of that. So I serve on the opioid task force. Yes, so that's, I think there's another word in there, but opioid settlement task force, there we go. And the termination of death is something that's really, really important there, and making sure that we get that information into the right hands and in a way that can be translated into a grant application format is something good. So again, something that makes sense within the overarching kind of universe, the vision for administrative roles under the county executive. That's something I think quite a bit about. Next, this is 2 more points. I'll get through it quick. Next, I want to address the concern that this is a rush job. I want to underline a pretty tough vote. I think the majority of people, I'll wait till we're talking a little less. Where was I here? So the jail vote, yes, that to me was a rush job, and I voted against it for that reason. The process to me was rushed. This is a process, this is a decision that will allow us to get something on the ballot and voters will decide. So we are not leapfrogging a conversation, we are beginning a conversation. We are not ruling by fiat here. We are initiating a conversation that we will have, and we will educate voters. So my last point, this is more of an overarching comment. Typically in the state of Illinois, we tether the county executive office, the creation of the county executive office, with home rule. And we do that so we have an empowered executive, so a presidential kind of role, with a similarly empowered county board, like a legislature. We have a county executive. We do not have a similarly empowered board. And here we are giving, again, rightfully so, I agree with this. We are consolidating power. We are giving more authority to the county executive to make these kinds of appointments. It elevates that position, and the county board needs to really be similarly empowered. So I would like to just, as we take up these kind of questions, I'd like to keep something like that in mind, particularly as we talk about new revenue streams. We would have a lot more freedom to make decisions with something like home rule. That's what I got.
Further questions? Michelle?
I just want to clarify that this would be like other appointments by the county executive, or it would also need to be approved by the board. So it would not just be an independent, unilateral decisions. I know it's all new territory, so I want to make sure we're all very clear about that piece.
Go ahead, Beth.
So that's one half of the equation. The other half is who decides who has the authority to dismiss the person once they've been appointed. Is that also going to be brought before the county board, or is that going to be a unilateral decision of the executive?
Point of order, we need to be speaking to the motion on the floor, which is to postpone or not postpone. I believe some of this is getting off into the discussion on the main motion.
Well, in
But
terms
sorry,
of, in
this
terms
is
of
the
process,
motion on the floor
in
is
terms
to
of process,
postpone.
Aaron is correct.
You need to
and
discuss
one
whether,
person at a
what
time.
your reasoning would be to be for or not against postponing.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to postpone indefinitely this resolution. Will the clerk, as long as pursuant to this question. Yes, go ahead. Jenny.
I am someone who came into this thinking I was a yes, but based on what I've heard, and even from other board members about not fully understanding the questions that are still coming up tonight, I would be a yes to postpone. I think that would be the wise thing to do at this point and move forward with this at a later date.
Further questions, comments? Leah, go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to be a no to postpone for a similar reason to Jenny, actually, is that I do have a lot of questions. I do want to have the discussion. I want to understand more the ramifications as far as from the admin perspective, that sort of thing. I want to be able to have that discussion, so that's why I'm going to be voting no on postponing.
Stephanie.
I'm going to rephrase Beth's question. In order to make an informed decision on whether or not I'd like to postpone, I would like to understand who has the authority to fire the person, because that will influence how I decide if I'm going to vote to postpone it or not.
Further questions? Aaron?
I would say if you want to further discuss and learn, it's an automatic no on the postponing. That kills tonight.
Okay.
Because that would kill that motion, and then we would, if that was a majority, and then we go back to full discussion of the main motion. The motion has been made and seconded to postpone indefinitely this agenda item. So if it were to pass, it's dead.
Okay.
If it doesn't pass, it goes back to the main motion. We can discuss it all we want.
So,
Stephanie?
in all due respect, you can't decide for me what will determine how I vote on Jeff's motion. And I'm telling you, one of this question is, Jeff is asking to postpone it indefinitely in order to kill it. Maybe he has a point. I would like to have clarification on the question that Beth asked in order to inform my decision on Jeff's motion. You do not get to decide, Aaron, whether or not I can make my decision based on, if that is not germane to how I make my decision.
It's totally germane, because the motion is on the floor. And parliamentary procedure, you vote on the motion on the floor, and discussion is contained to the motion on the floor, which is the amendment. So again, kill it. And then if you would want to postpone, you could bring it back up and maybe leave out the word indefinitely. Maybe put a time date on it then. You could offer up an amendment to say postpone until, let's start discussing again, let's just say in April, for potentially putting it on the general election.
Yeah, you know what? I withdraw my question because we're speaking past each other and there's really no point.
Seeing no more hands, we will be voting on the motion to postpone indefinitely. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vantage Theorenot.
No.
Wilson.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Coert.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Farney. Furtado. Locke.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
Michaels. Pugh.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
No.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton. Smith.
Yes.
Straub.
No.
Taylor.
No.
Thorsland.
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
Excuse me, motion passes. All right, moving forward. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 2023-355, placing the question of elimination of the elected office of county auditor in the Champaign County on the March 2024 election ballot? Do I have a motion? Motion by Straub, second by Michaels. Discussion. Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, I was actually raising my hand to postpone this until the fall. I'm wanting to make a motion that we postpone this resolution 2023-355 until April.
was asking for a motion to approve. I had a motion to approve. I was asking for a motion to second. So we're at that.
I thought, okay, fine.
Is there a motion to second? Mr. Farney. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor for Resolution 2023-355. Discussion. Now, Diane, if you want to.
Yeah. I want to make a motion that this comes up for discussion and we postpone it until, would February be appropriate if we wanted to talk about it and get more information about it? Tell me. I don't know what the timeline is.
Point of information, you'd have to amend the motion because it specifically mentions the March
date,
19th
yeah.
election.
No.
The last date, it does,
Yeah,
the
it
motion.
does.
So if you want to postpone it, you would also then have to amend the
Amend the
resolution that you're
resolution.
postponing because the last day that we could act on this
Yeah.
is January 2nd.
And I apologize because it's been a long day for
Yeah,
everybody here
I
today, too.
understand, believe me.
But that's what I'm wanting. Ow, I got a leg cramp. And that's what I'm wanting to do, is I'm wanting to
So
amend.
you want to make a motion to amend
the resolution.
the resolution to what date are you wanting to amend it to? So we've got, because we need to keep track of what the resolution actually, how it's going to be read.
Oh, what's a good date? All right. I'll make the motion to postpone it indefinitely.
Okay, that's, all right. We have a motion on the floor to postpone indefinitely. Is there a second? Jen Locke has given a second to that. Go ahead.
I guess I'll just say this about postponing it indefinitely. All that does is it means we're just not actually going to talk about it. And I literally don't understand it. Like, if you want to vote no on it, vote no on it. If you want to vote yes on it, vote yes on it. But postponing it indefinitely means we heard all sorts of feedback, and we as a body aren't even going to discuss it. And I literally just don't understand it. It's one of the most disappointing things I've ever heard on this board. Like, literally, what you're saying is this question is not even worth us deliberating or having a conversation about. Instead, you just want to ignore it. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But all I'm saying is, could we just vote yes or no on the actual issue?
Can I just clarify? Basically, what I want to do is I'm all wrong with what I'm saying. I get it, and I apologize for that. I really do. But what I'm saying is that I don't think this is appropriate at this time. I'm not saying that we can't look at things, that we can't discuss it. I'm not saying that we do or don't need an elected auditor. But what I'm saying is I think it needs to be discussed and it needs to be looked at. That's what I want to do.
Then you came up with a resolution initially where you wanted to change the date or the election ballot we would be considering this for. If you want to allow for additional discussion, it would seem to me the appropriate thing to do would be then to pick another date that we would then be considering this. So you're saying you don't want to do it on the primary ballot and then you want to do it on the general election ballot? Is that what your intent is?
I'd like to discuss it for the general, not necessarily meaning that it goes on the general election. I'd like to discuss it for the general election, not necessarily that it goes on the general election.
Well, right now we have a motion and a second on the floor for an up and down vote on this.
All right.
I've heard
Can I just withdraw what I did?
you
And
can
let's go
certainly
back
do
to
that.
square one and just
Sure,
skip it?
sure.
Yeah.
We are back at a motion and a second and discussion on the resolution. Mr. Thorsland, go ahead.
I would propose a different motion. I would like to postpone this discussion until the midterm of the next auditor's term, and I'll explain. We have people that have run both for the coroner's office and for the auditor's office, and we've heard a lot of public input, and as a person who's also run for office, or I wouldn't be sitting here, people are making plans and doing things. We've heard testimony from the clerk's office, or what turmoil that would cause in the clerk's office, because they're literally preparing the ballot right now. I think the best time if you're going to put this on the ballot, would be to be halfway through the current office holder's term, so that you can then give people plenty of time to learn about it before anybody runs for it, and then we can decide what happens, put it on a ballot, and get that decision out to the voters before we start an election cycle for either one of these offices. It could be for both. It could be for any office we're allowed to put something like this on the ballot. But I would suggest that we move this to the middle of the next round. So basically 2 years from now.
Well, go ahead, Kyle.
So as far as motions go, we can't postpone something for a new county board to take up, because that's what that would mean. How about this? How about we just vote it up or down? You know, this county board voted down the recorder referendum probably 4 times before we actually got it on the ballot. We can do that. I really don't like this whole indefinite postpone, or, you know, whatever it may be. So can we just vote this up or down and like make a decision?
Go ahead, Emily.
I just want to add, like, we're now doing this halfway through the resolutions that are on this issue. And so it's kind of chaos and weird. That's just more of a comment.
Well, we have had a motion and a second on the floor, and I'm continuing to hear from board members desiring to, I'm assuming, amend that. And I've not heard a full amendment. Go ahead, Jenny.
I was not planning to offer an amendment. I liked Mr. Thorson's suggestion about this is something that like Diane said, I was interpreting it as this is something that I want to explore. I am open to. I think that we are already so close now that however many questions that are still coming up on the board, I just don't feel comfortable that we're going to get this in time for the January 2nd deadline. With the holidays and with everything happening, it is feeling like if we start doing the work now, and I know that maybe a different board, I know there are people who are not running, working towards this in the 2026 cycle makes sense to me.
Again, we have a motion and a second. We do not have another amendment to that. Unless I hear a full amendment, then we have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, we will vote on it. I'm not hearing anything else. Go ahead, Ms. Straub.
I just wanted to speak in favor of Member Patterson's suggestion that we vote up or down, and to the point of Member Lakshin, I would say that, we can vote yes or no based on what we have right now. And that doesn't mean that our vote won't change with more information. But I do believe, and I believed in the last vote, that folks came out tonight to get some answers. And so if we leave just having squashed the conversation rather than having it and taking a vote based on what we know, that we're doing a disservice. And that would explain my vote last time and will explain my vote this time. That doesn't mean that it won't change 4 times from now. And that's what I'm going to say about that.
Aaron.
Yes, Mr. Patterson, you're right. You can't postpone for another board. I was wrong when I suggested that earlier. Would it be out of order if someone cared to suggest to administration, because administration is going to say that this gets brought back up at a certain time at a future board meeting? I mean, just ask that this get put on the calendar, this discussion, and potentially even back on the coroner if they so wish.
Again, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay.
There is no resolution to adopt or amend that. I'm not hearing any change. I'm just hearing that we don't want to make a decision. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, but this needs to pursuant to what we're talking about here.
I'm on the same page as Emily and another individual. I've lost track of what motion we're talking.
We only have one motion on the floor.
Which motion is it, though?
We have the
Just tell me
motion
what
to
the
approve this resolution and a
So it's
second.
the original motion, and we're having a discussion on the original motion.
That is
correct?
what we have on the floor, a
Okay.
motion and a second, and this is supposed to be discussion. We've had sort of amendments that have been proposed, but I've not heard anything else, guys. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Since we're not getting anywhere, I'm going to call for the question.
Questions called. All right, thank you. All in favor of calling the question? Aye. All right. Thank you, folks. I wish I was a little bit sharper, but I think we're all a little fuzzy right now. But we have a motion and a second approved on the floor for this resolution. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Phoenix Theronot.
No.
Wilson.
No.
Carter.
No.
Cowart. Esri.
No.
Farney. Furtado.
Yes.
Locke.
No.
Lockshin.
No.
Michaels. Pugh.
No.
Rodriguez.
No.
Rogers.
No.
Sexton.
No.
Smith.
No.
Straub.
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland.
No.
Patterson.
Yes.
I need to change my vote. I wanted to vote yes. I apologize. I got mixed up in the.
Has the clerk made that notice? Have you noticed the change in Ms. Rodriguez's vote?
Rodriguez was a yes.
All right, is a yes. All right. That does not change the outcome. The motion fails. Seeing as there is no other business, this meeting is adjourned.